So like, I take this wheel thing and I go vroom 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 up and down the street in my new movie, Need for Speed, The Rise of Pinkman. Bitch. Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy here to review the first feature film starring Breaking Bad star Aaron Paul, Need for Speed. So Need for Speed follows a guy by the name of Toby Marshall, who's a car repairman by day, but a street racer by night. And one day while driving these awesome looking and really fast cars with one of his repair shop buddies and an old friend turned rival, the old friend turned rival purposely taps his repair shop buddy's car, causing him to flip over, crash, and explode. He turns around to go save him while the other guy just zooms off, leaving him at the crime scene and framing him for the accident. Fast forward 2 years later, Toby gets out of jail with the plan to get back at Dino for what he did to Pete. And from that point on, it's a cross-country drive from New York to California to enter into the De Leon and get his revenge. Now, I wasn't really super stoked to see this movie. I mean, it's a video game-based movie, which usually aren't that good, and it's a racing movie that I feel like doesn't have the same appeal or essence as a Fast and Furious or even another movie that deals with racing. The only reason I went to see this movie is because I wanted to see what Aaron Paul would bring to the role and whether or not he could break out and become a movie star. But with all that said, what do I think about the movie? I mean, it's not a bad first movie for Aaron Paul to be in. He could have been in much, much worse, but at the same time, it wasn't anything spectacular to really make him stand out. It was just a standard movie. Huh? See what I did there? Car pun, right? Oh, God. I mean, I won't lie, most of the racing, especially in the latter half of the film, looked freaking awesome and it was exhilarating. The final race scene is honestly my favorite scene in this entire movie. It was the race I was looking forward to. It was high octane, exhilarating. I had a lot of fun with the final racing scene. I mean, it was all like, car flips over. It was so cool. And although none of the characters are anything spectacular or even original, that's not to say that I didn't enjoy some of the characters in this film. I mean, some of them were really entertaining and made me laugh my ass off. My favorite character throughout the entire film was his black friend, whose name I totally forgot, but he would just pop in and out with all these different aircrafts like a helicopter or a plane. He was entertaining, he made me laugh the most, and I just really liked his character. There's also this one character who's kind of like that one guy in your friends group that hits on all the girls and tries to impress them by saying that he did something spectacular, like, hey, I made that movie. I was an extra number 15. Yeah, you know, I try my best. Although he only had 2 major moments in the entire film, they were very memorable and hilarious. Now, as for the acting, most of the actors did a pretty good job. The one standout performance in this entire movie belongs to Michael Keaton. I mean, he plays this really eccentric guy who hosts the race called the De Leon. He was a lot of fun, he was energetic, I liked his performance. A close second would be Aaron Paul, who plays his character as this humble and honorable man, yet very stoic, and we'll get to his character soon, but as for the performance, I thought he did a pretty good job. And the last thing that I really liked from this movie is the cinematography and the soundtrack. The cinematography looked really good. For a racing movie, they did a really good job at filming the racing scenes, and some of just these grand shots, they looked really cool. Props to the DP there. And as for the soundtrack, it was just as exhilarating as one of the racing scenes. In fact, I would almost say that my favorite part of this entire movie is the soundtrack. I mean, the soundtrack is just so awesome. But as much as I enjoyed many facets of this movie, I did have a couple problems with it. The first problem that I had was actually the main character, Toby Marshall. The guy is so bland, generic, and stoic. I don't really blame Aaron Paul for the character because as much as the character is bland and generic, he played it to the best of his ability. I put the blame on the writers who made the character seem so bland and generic and stoic. They could have added some more flair to the character. Besides the 2 characters I mentioned earlier, all the other side characters are all bland, forgettable, and just generic. I mean, you got the cliche rival who who was once his best friend or somebody that he was really close to and they had a falling out, who's now dating his ex-lover, who also is the sister of one of his repair shop buddies. He meets this cute British chick who is the same girl from That Awkward Moment, and she was pretty quirky in the movie, but nothing really special. And then you got his stereotypical friend who has a toothpick in his mouth all the damn time in the movie. I don't think there's one time that he takes that toothpick out. I mean, there's a scene where 2 years later, he still has a toothpick in his mouth. I mean, seriously, the only special characteristic about that character is that he has a toothpick in his mouth. So interesting. The first 20 minutes of this film was downright forgettable and uninteresting, just chock full of exposition and this one race scene that wasn't thrilling whatsoever. It was so dull. I mean, seriously, there was no energy in that first race, and that's the race that you want to kickstart your movie? Are you stupid? And lastly, the story is unoriginal, very weak and generic. I mean, I didn't go into this movie looking for a deep story, but I did go in hoping to see an interesting and thrilling story. I mean, the only interesting part of the story is the rivalry between Toby and Dino in their final race, but until that moment, nothing else is that interesting. So overall, although it does have a lot of problems with it, I did enjoy some facets of Need for Speed, such as some of the characters. I did love some of the hilarious moments, and the racing scenes, the soundtrack, and the cinematography did look good. So I'll give this movie a 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. If you don't see Need for Speed, I mean, no one's really gonna get mad at you. There are other better racing movies out there. The only reason I would recommend seeing this movie is to go see Aaron Paul. But anyway, what did you guys think about this film? Did you like it a lot? Or did you find it bland and generic and you really didn't care? And instead of asking you what your favorite something is, I'm gonna ask you, do you think Aaron Paul can make a good movie star? Comment below and let me know. And also guys, stay tuned tomorrow for a very special video on a new segment coming out here on the Black Critic Guy channel, hosted by my good friend Lacey Malik, where she'll be talking about comic book news, comic books, movie news dealing with superheroes that I know you're gonna get a kick out of, so stay tuned for that tomorrow. And also I have an anime review coming out next week, and hopefully a food for thought if I write it this weekend. But until then guys, hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Welcome to the Black Critic Guy. Like this video if you really enjoyed it. And I'm Tony Waller II, the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace YouTube, bitch.